Greetings, cinephiles. Are you looking for a movie analysis podcast that stands above the rest? Then look no further than Collateral Cinema, the only movie podcast that matters.
We analyze good movies, we analyze bad movies, and yes, we also analyze the in-betweens of the world of cinema.
So if you like what you hear, find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
And listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and wherever you get your podcasts.
And yes, my friends, we are 420 friendly. So when you listen to us, smoke it if you've got it. And now, here's a new episode of Collateral Gaming. The show starts right now.
Tonight on the bonus round, we are jumping back into id Software's Doom franchise as I review 2020's Doom Eternal. So stick around, folks. The show starts right now. Welcome to Collateral Gaming Bonus Round. I'm Ashley Chancellor, and this is another solo episode. We've done a few of these lately. So yeah, it's just me, Ashley. And yes, my friends, we are a 420 friendly podcast. So whatever you have, smoke it if you've got it. We're recording from Houston, Texas, and I did a lot of that out of order, whatever. Fuck it. Welcome back to Doom. Yeah, that's right. We are doing more Doom content with Doom the Dark Ages having come out. And I know we are super late on the game launch review on that, but it is coming out. In fact, it has been recorded already. So very soon here, I'm going to go ahead and release that. But I wanted to pend it even just a little bit further than when we and that was important in the sense that, you know, this season actually we kind of, and one of the main reasons for that was because we had actually covered Doom 1993 and Doom 2016 earlier this season, and then with Doom the Dark Ages coming out, it just felt appropriate that we needed to go ahead and do all of the modern trilogy. So that's what we're doing here today. We are going to be talking about Doom Eternal. And let me just come out the gate and say it, guys. This is, to me, this is peak Doom. This is just the absolute Doom experience. This is so far, I think, you know, the best that I've played that the series has to offer. And I fucking loved Doom 1993. I fucking loved Doom 2016. I was like, wow, what a way to take the original Doom experience and translate that into a modern context. Doom Eternal has decided to evolve that further. That's really the goal here, is they took Doom 2016 and they expanded on it. And now with the Dark Ages out, you know, and in hindsight, we can actually look at this game in retrospect and kind of compare it to what came after, because in a lot of ways I feel like the Dark Ages that kind of more built off of Doom 2016 than anything. It didn't feel like it built as much off of what Eternal did, and there's just a lot of reasons why I really love Eternal. It's a little divisive. A lot of, you know, I think a lot of people felt that Doom 2016 was essentially the perfect modern Doom, that, you know, kind of like a lightning in a bottle moment where it was just the absolute, like, perfect experience. For me, I actually enjoyed Doom Eternal quite a bit more. I'm in the other camp. You know, I'm the ones that said, yeah, no, you took 2016, which was just, you know, just an absolute peak experience, and went far and above peak. There's a lot of new additions to gameplay and a noticeable spike in difficulty, and just, you know, even the normal difficulty setting that this feels quite a bit different, more fast paced. I think that's kind of the big difference you'll notice right away. And I played this on Xbox Series X, where you can get up to 120 frames. So, I mean, yeah, you can really experience this in just the full frenetic Doom style that we've all come to expect and love. And really, I mean, this is that Doom experience just on steroids. It's fucking insane. So they've added a dash mechanic to the game. That's one of the new additions to gameplay. Again, missing in Doom of the Dark Ages, I think they've instead opted in that game for just a straight up manual sprint button. There's pros and cons to both, but I do really like the dashes here. You hit the B button on Xbox or circle on PlayStation, and you'll do like a quick dash in any direction that you pick. You can store up to 2 of them, and they refill very quickly. Once you're not in midair. So that's used for both combat and for puzzle exploration style gameplay. In fact, with that especially, I did notice that there was quite a bit more platforming than there was in Doom 2016. And I think I actually said at our Doom 2016 episode, I think the platforming was a little weird, a little wonky at times. And this actually kind of compounded that problem a little bit. Maybe that is something the Dark Ages, I think, did a little bit better, was the platforming. Yeah, I mean, there's just some aspects of this where you're just kind of just flying through the air. They've installed these monkey bars, which are cool. You'll see them even on the battlefield, and the Doomslayer will do like a quick swing off of one of them. And but I mean, there's these like huge like parkour sections of the game where you're like swinging on the monkey bars and timing your dashes perfectly. There's a little power up in midair that you can, when you run over it, it'll refill your dashes right there in midair. So and you have to take advantage of those. The wall scaling is back, so Slayer just kind of like attaches to the wall. You have to either dash into it or hit click down the right stick or R3. And, you can kind of just scurry along the wall. I'm pretty sure Doom 2016 operated exactly like that with the wall scaling. But the Dark Ages kind of just streamlined it and just has you just scale automatically, which was interesting. But yeah, you've got the wall scaling and the new dash ability. The parkour, in its defense, it is kind of more of a situation of just get good, right? It's kind of frustrating at times when you're just trying to get to the next action segment and you're having to like swing around and jump around and shit and just die. But one massive improvement of this over the previous game is that whenever you fall into the abyss or lava or whatever, you don't instantly die. You just lose a little bit of health and or armor if you have some, and it respawns you right away. Thank God, because I think that was my biggest problem with Doom 2016's platforming was I mean it's just not it's hard to do in first person, and and kind of the camera style of Doom doesn't really work for how much platforming they're trying to do at times. But the worst part of it isn't even that so much as the fact that you died every time you fell into the abyss. This time, it just respawns you right where you're at. So you've got to fall several times before you actually die. So at least there's that. And again, if you kind of just take your time with it, it does become sort of a puzzle in a sense, actually. And there is something intensely satisfying about finally pulling off that sequence. So, it's not all bad. Sometimes I'm wondering, like, why are we doing so much fucking parkour in a Doom game? Even so, I don't really feel like it detracted from the experience. I think if anything, there is kind of this nice breath of fresh air in the diversification of how these levels are played out. Something that the Dark Ages even kind of further expands on with having different level types. But here, I did feel like I really enjoyed Doom Eternal quite a bit more because it did feel a little bit more varied. Jumping back to some of the new gameplay additions. So in addition to the new dash ability, you now also have a shoulder-mounted flamethrower. And this is really cool because when you burn enemies, it generates armor. So there really was no way to like generate armor, I remember, in Doom 2016, unless you got like the right perk or whatever. But this actually is now a core ability, and it's on a cooldown, just like the dashes are, and just like the grenades are, and the chainsaw as well. We'll get to all of that. But yeah, I mean, it's actually it's on a cooldown, and it restores pretty quickly. But essentially, yeah, you can just burn enemies. It works better if they're in groups of like fodder enemies, and then so you can just like take out the super shotgun and just blast them all away after lighting them on a fire, and that'll drop the most amount of ammo if you kill a large number of enemies. And then kill them all at once. But I even found some uses for it, just kind of doing like a quick combo with like flamethrower to chainsaw. Let's generate armor and ammo at the same time. So it really becomes just kind of like a combat loop, essentially, every time in combat. And maybe that just clicked for me more than it did in the last game, or maybe just the new abilities really lend a credence to that. But yeah, it does become sort of a loop that every time you enter combat, you have ways of restoring every single resource in the game. So the glory kills from Doom 2016 return, of course, and function identically to the way they did in that game. And then that guarantees health drops from enemies. But there's also now a new blood punch that by completing enough glory kills, you can refill and eventually upgrade to be able to hold 2 of these punches at once. And so that's a new melee ability that you can use by clicking the right stick or pressing R3. And he'll just do a quick punch that deals a bunch of damage. There's a rune that'll actually make it drop health as well. Which I pretty much always have equipped now because more ways of generating health are better. There's also, we'll talk about the grenades later, but there's an upgrade for the ice grenade that makes it drop health too. So you're kind of just creating, different scenarios for yourself to restore resources. But yeah, so like the glory kills work just like they did before, but now they also contribute towards this blood punch ability. And if you need to generate armor now, as mentioned, you have the flamethrower, and of course the chainsaw returns from Doom 2016 as well. What's different this time is it's mapped to the same button, X on the Xbox or square on PlayStation, which in Doom 2016 that would actually switch you over to the chainsaw, and then you would have to attack with it using the right trigger or R2. But now it's just done in one fluid motion, and I think that works for the better because it's already mapped to the button that's typically used for reloading in first-person shooter games, and it also works, in just one animation now, that it kind of works as like a reload button. It feels like a reload button, which is cool. And it works. Other than that, the chainsaw works just like it did in the previous game, where at least I think it worked exactly this way in Doom 2016. But it'll regenerate over time, like on cooldown, but only 1 pip. But you can hold up to 3 pips by collecting more gas canisters. But one thing is that I felt that I was using the chainsaw a lot more with the increased number of enemies, and something that I want to touch on later. But the game's tendency to actually force you to use all of the available weapons just had me actually using the chainsaw far more often. Because in Doom 2016, I would just sort of, I'd usually only use the chainsaw once I had emptied myself of all of the ammo of every weapon, because I wanted to use all of them. So, mainly I'd start out with my super shotgun, but I'd find ways of incorporating other weapons, or when one ran out, I'd move to the other. And then I would pretty much only chainsaw once I was out of all the available weapons, or if there was a particular weapon I wanted to use for that situation and I needed the ammo for it sometimes. But I really felt like it actually sort of became a part of my combat loop to, kill a few enemies and then chainsaw an enemy, because you're actually finding yourself needing to use different weapons more regularly. And so whereas you might have just switched to a different weapon because you have ammo somewhere else before you needed to refill, now you are maybe inclined to just go ahead and get ammo for that specific weapon. And even if you're just regenerating one pip at a time of chainsaw fuel, it's frequent enough that you can use it regularly. And so, you're just blasting enemies away with your weapons applicable to the enemy type and situation. And then every few rounds you're gonna go ahead and restore whatever you need to. Okay, let me top off my health. Let me top off my armor. Let me refill my ammo. And yeah, like I said, it just kind of becomes like a system, and I really enjoyed that. So combat was a lot more frenetic and intense, but there's also just a little bit more of a strategic angle about it. And if you just stop and understand all of the systems, because it's overwhelming. That's the first thing you're going to come into Doom Eternal noticing. And it's why I wouldn't recommend this, for instance, as an entry point for the franchise or before playing Doom 2016. I would say, no, start with Doom 2016, because this takes that. And it's like, okay, now that you've mastered that, let's add just a lot more. And there is a lot going on. All of the new abilities that I just mentioned, plus, there's like three or four different upgrade systems in the game. So you've got the suit upgrades, which have a variety of effects, from affecting your equipment to traversal to environmental damage to core gameplay mechanics. And then you have also the Sentinel crystals, which will increase your health, armor, and ammo. But when you collect 2 of them, will actually unlock a specific permanent passive buff or effect. And then, of course, the runes return from the previous game, and they function pretty much identically to the way they did before. I think a lot of the same runes are even in, but you can equip up to 3 passive effects at a time. And then the Ancient Gods DLC, I think, adds like a support perk too that you can add, which is cool. But so you've got the runes, you've got the weapon upgrades, for the weapon mods returning. So was it Praetor suit upgrades, weapon upgrades? The runes you can kind of call upgrades. I mean, they're unlockable perks. What else? And the Sentinel crystals. So there's a lot going on here. But once you learn all of these systems and master all of these abilities, it really just becomes like a science, and it becomes so enjoyable. And I mean, Doom looks better than ever while you're doing it. The color palette is quite a bit more vibrant than this game or than the previous game or the next one for that matter. And I actually really like that. I think that was a little bit that was one of the more polarizing aspects of the game, is some people felt that it was too vibrant, but to me that kind of almost accentuated that classic Doom experience. I guess depending on what consoles you were playing it on, but I really enjoyed it, and even having all of the different weapon ammo types clearly differentiated with by color actually helped with identifying things quickly and responding quickly. But also Mick Gordon returns for the soundtrack, and my God, he's managed to outdo himself. It's incredible. Just that blaring, heavy metal while you're slicing through enemies is so awesome. And there's just even way more cool shit to do. I mean, most of the same weapons return from the previous game. I mean, you've got the combat shotgun, the super shotgun. You've got the heavy cannon, which is the new name for the heavy assault rifle. All of those function, just like they did in the previous game, practically. The chain gun, the plasma rifle, the BFG 9000, of course. There's another super weapon that you can switch too, which we'll talk about here in a minute. But you've also got let's see, the shotguns, the heavy cannon and chain gun, the plasma rifle. Oh, the ballista is the replacement for the Gauss cannon. As far as its primary fire goes, it's pretty much the same thing. It's kind of like your other weapon that uses plasma ammo that works, that functions similarly to a sniper, but its scope type weapon mod functions a little differently. That's the arbalest, and it actually creates a projectile that then explodes. So that's really cool. And then it also, I know a lot of people liked the siege mode on the Gauss cannon, and that's gone. Instead, you've got the destroyer blade, which is cool. It functions like the line gun from Dead Space. And it's cool in concept, but it takes so fucking long to charge up. And the arbalest is good against flying enemies like the cacodemons and the elementals. So, I mean, that just ended up working out for me. So you've got that. As far as the other weapons I mentioned, like I said, they do function pretty much the same way as they did in the last game. The shotgun now, instead of having a 3-round burst weapon mod, it has a full auto. But the sticky bomb weapon mod is pretty similar to before, and you're gonna find a lot more uses for it, because that's one thing I really wanted to get into, is how all of these different weapons are utilized in the game better, because every demon has a different weakness, and so some weapons are going to be better at exploiting those weaknesses, or the enemy just be overall weaker to. So enemies have weak points now that you can exploit, and that's what I actually really, really liked about this game, and what really clicked combat for me, is it does force you to use all of your weapons, and it just adds that other layer of strategy. And so, you've got the arachnotrons, or whatever they're called. They're like little mini spider masterminds, common enemies, but they've got a little a turret on top of them, and you can launch a sticky bomb at it, or you can use the precision bolt scope attachment on the heavy cannon to target that and take that out. Well, now that enemy can't attack you as effectively, because that turret is a fucking bitch. You're going to be wanting to take those out like right away. There's even to master one of the weapon mods, the sticky bomb on the combat shotgun. There's actually like little challenges, like destroying all of the turrets on the arachnotrons. I think that's what they're called. I can't quite remember. And that actually fills up. There's mastery tokens that you can use, that you can obtain later in the game, that allow you to bypass the mastery challenges. But even after you acquire each weapon mod and upgrade each of those using the weapon tokens, there'll be a final challenge. And this is just like how 2016 did it, but you can it'll have like an optional challenge that you can use to fully master the weapon, and that creates a new effect. My favorite, of course, is the super shotgun, which now has a fucking meat hook on it. And when you fully master it, it becomes a flaming meat hook. So not only does that meat hook pull you to the enemy to get right where you need to go for a point blank shotgun blast from a double barrel shotgun, or even set you up for a glory kill or blood punch, or chainsaw. But also, when it hooks into the enemy, it sets them on fire and generates generates armor. So now I have another reliable method of generating armor, and I can combine that. Like I mentioned, I had a cool combo that I came up with, which was flamethrower then chainsaw. Although if you're just doing that against a single enemy, it's kind of wasteful for the flamethrower. But using the flaming meat hook, and which pulls you right to the enemy, lights them on fire, generates armor, and then you cut into them with the chainsaw, which kills them, dropping the maximum amount of armor from that enemy while generating ammo. Perfect. It's honestly like I said, it just becomes like a science. And the full auto weapon mod for the combat shotgun, I mentioned it, but it is really fucking awesome. It'll chew through your shotgun shells, but you can just chainsaw an enemy and get it all back. So it's fucking awesome. A lot of the same weapon mods do return on the heavy cannon. Like I mentioned, you've got the scope attachment still, which is the precision bolt, and you can also there's a rune that will slow down time when you're holding down the left trigger or L2. So if you use it with the scopes on with the scope attachments on weapons, you can kind of just get like a bullet time ability, which is really useful for getting those headshots. There was another mastery challenge that was getting headshots with the precision bolt, and that once you master that creates the effect of a small explosion after headshotting an enemy. So you can clear waves of fodder enemies that way, which is really useful just by getting headshots on them with the precision bolt. But the micro missiles also return, and by fully mastering that weapon mod, you can use it indefinitely. It'll chew through your heavy cannon ammo, but the mobile turret for the chain gun returns and just turns it into an absolute powerhouse that can take down those super heavy demons right away. But there's also an energy shield weapon mod, which is useful in deflecting attacks and faltering enemies while you're hitting them with the chain gun. And the chain gun is effective against, for instance, the Hell Knights and another heavier demon type. And you've got the plasma rifle has the same heat wave weapon mod from the last game, but there's also now a microwave beam. It's kind of a cool novelty ability. It chews through it drains all of your plasma cells, but if you can like hold down this ability and just explode any demon, provided you have enough cells to drain. And that's really fucking cool.
It's humanity's chance to repent.
Against all the evil that hell can conjure, all the wickedness that mankind can produce, we will send unto them only you.
Saving your people will not bring you peace. Only make the burden you carry worse.
For millennia we have survived, made others sacrifice in the name of our prosperity. Who are you, a human, to defy our traditions?
Seek to stop this.
Nothing but a usurper, a false idol.
The only thing they fear is you.
Oh, the Kako demons, actually. One of the enemy weaknesses I wanted to mention, which is really cool. the arbalest deals bonus damage to them, of course, as flying enemies, but you can launch sticky bombs or frag grenades in their mouth, and they'll chew it up, and just like a like or a dodongo, they'll explode, and that'll instantly stagger them, so you can get in on the glory kill, which is super fucking satisfying to pull off. The grenades return. In the last game, there were equipment which included grenades. So there was like the siphon grenade and the frag grenade. The frag grenade returns, and there's now there's also the aforementioned ice grenade, which can be upgraded to generate health ammo, so that creates an additional use. But also just freezing enemies is super useful. There's a new enemy. There's a whiplash enemy, which I think is a new enemy for this game. I don't remember running up against one in the previous one. One of whose weaknesses is the ice grenade. Which is it's just useful for its attack pattern. Also, the enemies that teleport around, I think they're called like nightmares or something. They one of their recommended strategies against them is also the ice grenade. So, you can see how that's useful for a number of situations. I also found that they kind of have a hidden weakness to the lock-on attachment on the rocket launcher, which returns, simply because that was the mastery challenge for the lock-on weapon mod. I think it is the same two weapon mods as in the last game too, because I remember the lock-on one, and then there's a remote detonation mod. That's actually useful against pinkies in particular, because you can detonate, you can let the rocket go and then detonate right as it passes the pinky to hit its back, which is one of its new weak points. But the pinky is also weak against the blood punch. The blood punch can also take down energy shields, which certain types of enemies will deploy, but energy shields can also be overloaded with the plasma rifle. So there's so many different ways of going about every combat situation that it's more than just, okay, let me start with my favorite weapon and then let me just go down the list of weapons until I run out. This is going to be a particularly useful weapon here. And so, like I mentioned, I really do enjoy that extra level of strategy. The grenades, as I mentioned earlier, are now mapped to L1 or the left button, as they now fire from a shoulder-mounted grenade launcher. Either that, or it was the wrist-mounted grenade launcher. Because I know there's a new wrist-mounted blade which factors into the glory kill animations, but that actually helps because now you can fire your primary weapon while shooting grenades. So. That was a thoughtful change to the combat system. But overall, it's just it just goes so much harder. It definitely really makes you feel like the Chad that is the Doomslayer. And I really, really fell in love with this game's combat. It's hard and it's unforgiving. And it's punishing, but there was something about this, I think, that drew me in a little bit better than the last game. I think I mentioned in that review of Doom 2016 that sometimes, I just had enough Doom. It was like, okay, it's just difficult combat encounter after difficult combat encounter after difficult combat encounter. And sometimes the same combat encounter, right? Again and eventually, you're just like, okay, I've had enough of this. I can't do too much more. Where Doom Eternal succeeds is it felt varied enough that it maintained my interest for longer. And although it is even more punishing and unforgiving, arguably, I think it does a better job of incentivizing you. And I think that because there's so many different ways it feels like to approach combat scenarios. You can really just go balls to the wall with it, and it's really fun to try out new things. I like how you have optional combat encounters in this game, but they're just kind of these little quick events that take place, wherever you are. You punch the the nest thing, and a bunch of enemies come out, and you've got to kill them very quickly. Some of them are like harder, like heavy or super heavy enemies in the mix, and so you've got to figure out how to kill those enemies as quickly as possible in the allotted time. But then you can kind of cheese it once you get the super weapons in the game. Okay, so we talked about the BFG. There's also now the Unmaker returning from Doom 64. I mean, the BFG is just a better weapon. It's a crowd clear. It'll clear practically all the enemies on screen, with some exceptions of super heavy demons. But the Unmaker instead is kind of more of a focused attack. It has applicable scenarios. I found it useful, for instance, against the later bosses of the game. But it'll just drain that BFG ammo, which would be better used in most scenarios to just clearing out entire waves of enemies. Usually like I said, in that combat encounter where the enemies keep respawning, you'll get that like last wave that'll have like two super heavy demons in the mix or some shit, like where it would throw like Barons of Hell or the new Doom Hunters at you. So yeah, but there's also now the Crucible. This is a late game weapon that you'll collect, which actually functions like the chainsaw did in Doom 2016. With the chainsaw now being relegated to a single animation, now the Crucible kind of picks up that slot as being the weapon that'll one-shot enemies and just cleave them in two. It has a maximum of 3 ammo, and like the BFG ammo, they're pretty sparse. You have to, but you'll find them in the world once you've collected the weapon. But yeah, it just pulls out this fucking Argent Energy fucking laser sword just out, and it'll cleave any enemy, even super heavy enemies, down in one hit. I think some of the new enemies like the Marauder are immune to it. The Marauder is immune to every cheap trick. Fuck that guy. We'll talk about him in a second. As well as the Doom Hunters, one of the new super heavy demons that it has an energy shield, so you have to take that down first, then you can actually damage the thing. But so yeah, with enemies like that, it won't work. But yeah, for most enemies, and of course bosses, but for most enemies of the game, yeah, you could just take them down right away. And the final boss fight in particular just throws this ammo out at you, giving you an option to just combat these just waves of heavy demons coming at you while you're trying to take down the fucking icon of sin. God, that final battle was so cool. I want to talk about the story, but maybe just a few more points about gameplay. Yeah, I mentioned the Marauder. That's a new enemy type that spawns as kind of a mini boss at the end of a level at first, but then becomes a regular enemy pretty quickly. You can only damage them at mid-range as a counterattack. So it kind of feels like this was a precursor to one of the core gameplay mechanics of Doom: The Dark Ages, but you'll see a quick little green flash when you can do this. And so you'll want to hit them with kind of a heavier one-shot type weapon like the super shotgun at mid-range. And if you get too close, he'll hit you with his shotgun. And if you get too far, he'll launch projectiles at you. He's also got like a fire wolf that he can summon, and he can throw his axe or swing it at you. So he's got an axe and a shotgun and a fucking fire spectral wolf thing that he can summon. He's only counterable at mid-range. He'll do the attack with the green flash, so you hit him with the shotgun, and then if you're good, if you've mastered the combat of the game, you'll learn how to quick swap to your other weapon, which is now mapped to along with the weapon wheel to R1 or the right bumper. But you can quick swap to actually bypass weapon reload animations, and the game. This is an in-game tip that you were given later in the game. But yeah, you can use it to quickly swap between, say, the super shotgun and the ballista, and deal the most amount of damage until you get that cue to glory kill. But what else? Okay, the story. I'm gonna be honest, guys. I don't really pay attention to the story much in Doom games. I'm mostly just like, yeah, let's fuck shit up. And I'm a story guy when it comes to games. But Doom to me has always just had that kind of that fantastical quality that's like, holy fucking shit. That being said, I do enjoy the story here. This game sort of kind of actually explains what Doom 2016 was. I think prior to this, it was kind of thought of as a total reboot, when in essence it's actually a soft reboot. And Doom Eternal sort of implies through the lore that and as mentioned on the Doom the Dark Ages episode we'll have here soon, but there's a lot of lore here that actually we got to see played out in that game that's mentioned in the various codex entries and flashbacks that the game has to offer. One improvement over Doom 2016 was the addition of in-game cinematics. Some people might prefer the style of just collecting the lore entries, and that may be why I never paid much attention to the lore in Doom 2016, but also I felt like the story wasn't overly complex. But yeah, you kind of just picked up these lore entries, and I might like scroll through them and read them, but it's not like I would really process everything. I'd kind of just be ready just to jump back into the game. So I'm kind of just like scanning through these entries as I'm finding them. But this game added in-game cinematics, and like I mentioned, some of the purists really preferred the style of just finding the lore in the background. But I welcome the brief cutscenes, at the start of, in the middle of, and after levels. And I think it does kind of help with the pace and the flow of the game. And it actually kind of made me, a little bit more inclined to actually, go back to some of those codex entries and, okay, hold on, what was the whole story with this? And so, and what's really actually fucking awesome about this, the plot of this game is essentially, it's Doomslayer after Doom 2016, just gets like whisked away to this Fortress of Doom. We'll talk about that as well, because that's like the new hub area that you visit in between missions. So yeah, he gets whisked away to the Fortress of Doom somehow after Samuel Hayden sends him away at the end of the last game. But now Earth is gone full demonic invasion a la Doom 2. And the Slayer is there to just fuck shit up, to kill these hell priests in order to close the portals from hell. But in the process of that, you start coming across aspects of the Slayer's backstory, that period of time that this game addresses, as I mentioned earlier, between the original Doom games and Doom 2016. A lot of this is told via flashback, like I mentioned, and codex entries, but we did get to later see a lot of that played out here in the next game. But it actually was really cool to not only get confirmation that this is the same Doom guy, referred to in the subtitles as Doom guy, but what actually turned him in from this fucking peak human, like superhuman level strength, regular ass mortal into an actual god. And you'll even find these recordings in one of the levels that talk about how the people of Earth see the Slayer as a god now. Even a woman who is a scientist who says that she can't she can't entertain theories like that as a scientist, kind of actually starts to, as you progress through the recordings that you find in the level, progresses to, just full-fledged worship of the Doomslayer. So he's just a fucking badass. There's another scene in the game where there's a couple of dudes. Honestly, man, I've been playing this concurrently with Doom the Dark Ages, so if I'm wrong and this was a scene from the Dark Ages, then correct me. But I remember there being a game where Doom guy just he's listening in on two just regular ass guards talk about how so something to the effect of, if he comes up, he's not gonna do shit. I think these are the two dudes that you find in the area where you get the BFG, but they're like, we're not afraid of the Doomslayer or something to that effect. And then dude just pops in and you can actually see them like visibly shit their pants practically. Fucking amazing. The BFG was really cool. There's the BFG 10,000, which is actually powered by the BFG 9000, but Doomslayer actually uses it to punch a hole into Mars. Yeah, no, straight up, you pull Samuel Hayden out of this facility, scaring the shit out of the pants, but also adoration of regular ass humans, witnessing being in the presence of the Slayer. You grab Samuel Hayden, hook him up to your ship, and then he's like, you can't just punch a hole in Mars. Doomslayer says, bet, right? That's what he does, man. What a fucking Giga Chad, dude. Just gets onto this facility housing the BFG 10,000. That's where you came across the two guards, and fires it at the planet. Just throws a crater to dig in to get it to the core of Mars, so that he can get to Argent Denur, this alien civilization that he found himself in sometime after Doom 64, after being stuck in hell again. He found himself in Argent Denur. And then there's hell, which is like another dimension. And then there's an actual heaven inhabited by these weird-ass people called the Makers. They factor into the plot of the Dark Ages, but they're just kind of like these like overlords or something. Or I guess they're supposed to be some like analogy to angels. But they're apparently supposed to like have this like central consciousness that they return to, and then they don't, and like the Khan Maker, who's like the big one, gets stuck immortal and becomes crazy or something. And yeah, it's fucking insane. The Slayer goes to heaven and hell and fucks shit up, and Samuel Hayden's there, and he returns. And then there's a whole DLC, The Ancient Gods, which I got to play a little bit of. I saw all the Doom games on sale on the Nintendo Switch eShop, so I actually purchased, I already had Doom 1 plus 2, but I purchased Doom 3, Doom 64, Doom 2016, and Doom Eternal on Nintendo Switch 2. So I did get to try out Doom Eternal, specifically The Ancient Gods, which it was actually cheaper for me to purchase Doom 2016, Doom Eternal, and the Ancient Gods DLC than it was for me to buy the DLC season pass on Xbox, because I had the game on Game Pass on my Series X. So I tried anyway, long story short, I tried the Ancient Gods Part 1 on Nintendo Switch 2. It was obviously just the Nintendo Switch port with no actual with no updates as of yet for the Nintendo Switch 2, so it was a solid 30 frames per second. Definitely a noticeable difference in frame rate from the 120 up to 120 that I had on Xbox. But with that in mind, and it just not being as pretty as it was on the Series X, still very decent for a port that was, still very decent for a version of the game that was playable on Switch 1 hardware. So yeah, the Switch port of this game is not bad if you have no other way to play it. But I mean, obviously, if you have a PS5 or an Xbox Series X or a PC, I've heard that this game is actually best played with the mouse and keyboard, and taking full advantage of, a high-end PC specs. Then that's obviously the ideal way to play it. But hey, it's on Nintendo Switch, and it's not bad. And maybe they'll have a Switch 2 update that'll unlock the frame rate at least. That would be nice. So, but I mean, this game is still, very technically impressive on any platform that it's on. It feels great. The story is just fucking metal. The whole experience is metal. It is Doom 2016. It is Doom 2016 on steroids, and Doom 2016 was essentially just classic Doom, translated into a modern context. And And in some ways, Doom Eternal even manages to recapture even more of the classic game's experience. So I wholly recommend it. Again, I would recommend that you play through Doom 2016 first before you jump into Doom Eternal. You can even play the Dark Ages before this because they really are quite different. It's kind of like both games took a different approach to expanding on Doom 2016. Eternal said, let's, throw in a few new things and just kind of just double down and really evolve this. Whereas Dark Ages said, let's just fuck around and find out and take, modern Doom and just do something very different with it than we've ever done before. And in both cases, it shows id taking Doom, which they managed to perfectly deliver into the modern gaming era, and prove that they're capable of new ideas and trying new things. And so that makes me more excited than ever. Honestly, the perfect Doom game for me would be a follow-up to Doom Eternal. I don't think that would happen, but if something just took like Doom Eternal's abilities and energy and just doubled down on it even further, that would be like the perfect Doom title. But I think what we're more likely going to just see is something, again, very, very new and different. I think with the new Doom entry, but maybe not too different. We'll see. But I think that will just about wrap up my thoughts on Doom Eternal. If there's anything I mentioned that I would talk about later and I didn't talk about later, I do apologize. We're already running up on an hour, and I was like, holy shit. Yeah, I've just been managing to talk about Doom this whole time, solo. So I wanted Megan on this episode, but I realized, if I had her for recording, I'd rather get her on the Doom, the Dark Ages episode. And I would just try to throw this one out, record this one as quickly as I could. So I figured, fuck it. We'll just do this solo. But Megan, if you're listening, hi. And thank you to everyone else who listened to me rant about Doom Eternal for an hour. If you enjoy this episode, again, stay tuned for our Doom the Dark Ages review, and also our episode on Bushido Blade, which we have already recorded. So actually, we've got a lot of content. We've actually gotten through quite a bit of our backlog of episodes. It's just a matter of actually editing and releasing them. And then we can finally do our season finale. Obviously, at this point, we're a little bit past the month mark of the Nintendo Switch 2 release, but still very much relevant. I think, if anything, with the extra time, we can talk about even more. But in part one of our season finale, we're going to be covering Mario Kart World, the pack-in title with Nintendo Switch 2. And then part two will just kind of be a look at the launch lineup, as well as releases in June and July afterward, as well as a review of the console itself. So stay tuned for that. We'll also have our anniversary special out during the postseason, and we're going to be playing Four Swords together, multiplayer. If we can get four of us, definitely me, Megan, and Zachary. And either Bo can join or our friend Dan Rockwood if he wants to. That way we can just get 4 people to do some fucking Zelda. It's going to be awesome. We're not doing Triforce Heroes, so yeah, we're going to have 4 people, not 3, if I have to go to the ends of the earth to do it. But stay tuned for that. Also on Collateral Cinema, we should have out a director's cut episode on Lupin III with Robbie Sherman from Conversations with Robbie Sherman, as well as a new episode out on Mean Girls very soon. And then our Collateral Cinema season finale will be our 100th episode and a Redux on The Room. And I am very, very excited for that. And of course, our Make-Anniversary special. At present, I can't remember what it was that Bo suggested, but there's also a new Takashi Miike series that just came out. So maybe we should cover that, because, I mean, that literally just released this month. And I think that was Night of the Living Dead or something. So I don't know. We'll talk about it, and we'll have a whole slew of post-game or post-season content from both Collateral Gaming and Cinema. You can also look forward to some more Collateral Let's Play. Like I said, just once I get through the backlog of episodes, we'll jump back on top of that. we definitely want to get back on our Phoenix Wright Wednesday series. Call of Duty Saturday would be good as well, especially with a new game coming out, and I think new Call of Duty entry coming to Game Pass as well, if I'm not mistaken. So there's even some new Call of Duty stuff that we could get into with that. In addition, I would like to start actually recording gameplay of either games that we're doing for the podcast, because I'm going to be playing them anyway, or even new releases, games that we're not necessarily going to get a chance to do a game launch review of, but just kind of my day one first impressions, and be able to get that out, basically on launch day or launch night would be cool. So yeah, look forward to more Collateral Let's Play content on both the Collateral Gaming and Collateral Cinema YouTube channels here very soon. Like I said, really just kind of pending getting through the rest of this season's content, and then I want to definitely jump on that. We do have Let's Play commentaries also on our Patreon. We haven't updated in quite some time, but if there's anything we could work on in the postseason, that definitely should be it. And honestly, more bonus round and director's cut. I mean, I'm glad that we got this episode out and another director's cut out recently. But yeah, having more of these types of episodes will be good for both podcasts. Other ways you can support the show, you can check us out on Buy Me a Coffee or visit our merch store on Dashery. Link will be provided in the show notes as always. Other than that, I guess that's it. So thank you once again for listening. And with all that being said, I've been John Doom. This was Collateral Gaming Bonus Round. We are out.
Collateral Gaming is a Collateral Media Podcast. All music and game clips are owned by their respective creators and are used for educational purposes only. Please don't sue us. We're poor.